What's up, everybody? We're back. We're doing our second part of the Rush thing. I'm gonna preface it with I learned the song that I was gonna play. I've been very busy. I started a new job, so I just haven't had time to record it. So I'm not gonna do a video part this time. But to make up for it, I'm gonna do two for the next one. So I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, it was a good album. Just kind of, pretty repetitive.
Yeah, I would agree. And then especially, too, when we were working on the audio for Animate, when I was working on it, we both couldn't believe it's just the same riff over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
You just, you do the A part and the B part, and then you go back to the A part, go back to the B part. Mm-hmm. And the only time you get to a C part is during the solo section.
Yeah, that's the only part of that song that's different.
Yeah. And it's, and then it was amazing, too, the drum samples that we found for this song. I mean, they were it's almost like they took some of the drum beats from Counterparts and put them in this program for everybody else to use.
Yeah. One other thing that I thought was kind of, that I had no idea. Like, I didn't realize how many people actually knew this album. Because on Facebook, the post that I made, I just said that we're doing Counterparts. And I said it was lesser known. And everybody's like, what do you mean lesser known? Like, this is a great album.
That's news to me. Because,
Same.
I mean, like, whenever I see lists of Rush albums and, when people start talking about albums by that group, Counterparts never comes up, at least in my personal experiences when I've, been in front of people or, spoken with them. I mean, it might be different on a forum, and maybe there's a lot of other diehard Rush fans out there than I thought, but no, like, around here in this town, well, first of all, nobody even knows who Rush is in most cases.
Right. And another thing I want to say, how many followers did I say we had last time on our Facebook page?
It was around, I think on video we said 170, around 200, somewhere in there.
And that was a week ago. We have currently 398 followers.
Wow. I mean, thanks a lot, guys. We really appreciate that.
It's been 2 weeks since I made the Facebook page.
So we've doubled our
on Facebook. But if you're watching and you're one of our followers, come subscribe to our YouTube channel, please, because we still only have 13. And it would be cool to have 400, but it's blowing my mind. I didn't expect our Facebook page of all things to blow up.
No, I mean, and even so, I mean, I for one am just very grateful that everybody out there is giving us some support and taking a look at what we have to offer.
Yeah, so thank you, a million thanks. But yeah, this Rush album I didn't realize how popular it actually was. There was a lot of people that commented and said, "What, like exactly like I said, like what do you mean? Like this was one of their best albums." And I don't know. I disagree. Like I have seen some,
we
said, from that era. Yeah, it was probably one of the better ones.
And I've seen some retrospective, like since the last video we shot. I was very surprised how many people commented on there and ranked this album a little higher in the I guess among favorites or favored among some of their catalog. And when I saw those, I was kind of backtracking in my mind. I was like, man, maybe I was a little harsh on them in the last video, but just for me personally, I'm more of a fan of this group up until, I would say, 1981, 82.
That's exactly what I said, yeah.
And from the 80s period onward, I just it diminished a little bit, with the sole exception of Presto. I mean, I hate to say it, but Presto is one of my top 5.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. To me, it just doesn't do it for me like their old ones.
And I'll just go right ahead and say it. I mean, it's not that I'm saying it's a bad album. It's just, as far as Rush's catalog goes, I would put it in the lower tier. I mean, that's just a testament to how good their albums are overall, period.
And we had a couple people saying stuff like that on Facebook, too, where they were like, I didn't mean that this album was bad.
No.
I posted, I can't remember exactly what the post was. I think I put lesser known or liked album. And somebody was like, compared to what? Because this is a great album. And I'm like, again, I don't mean any disrespect. I'm not saying it's a bad album. I'm comparing it to like their old stuff, like 2112, and I keep mentioning that. Yeah. But they set a benchmark early.
Yes, and that's what makes it really hard to kind of even gauge one album to the next with this group, is because it depends. To me, it depends on when you got into this band. I'm saying your specific age when you got into this band. If you're a little older, you might like some of their later stuff a little more. If you're a little younger, you're probably going to like their earlier stuff more. And it's because it just seems like the evolution of this band, they went from being very angsty young people to... And we grew up with them throughout the period that their albums came out. And we finally got to the point when they all reached, old age, and that's kind of the kind of vibe I get from it.
Yeah, I meant like lesser known or liked compared to the likes of 2112 and Moving Pictures and, maybe their first album, and Fly By Night. And because they, like I said, they set their benchmark super early, and they set it really high. Very high. And I don't think they were ever a band that wanted to make their next album better than their last album.
I don't think necessarily.
They were one of those bands that purely just whatever they felt like putting out, they put out. That's why they almost their record label almost dropped them like 3 times before 2112 came out, because they were just like, we don't get it. Yeah. And it wasn't selling. And
I'll tell you what too, for me personally, and that's why I'm such a huge Rush fan, and what drew me to them in the first place, is the fact that they're an evolving band. I mean, it's they do what they do because they want to do it. Yes, they would take influence from what's going on at the time. I mean, let's be real. When you listen to Permanent Waves or Moving Pictures, they take influence from the Police. They take influence from minimalistic bands and stuff like that. And then into the 80s, they took influence from still the Police, but also the electronic bands that were going on at the time. And then when their easy listening period, when they were in Presto and Roll the Bones, I really don't know what they were doing, but I think they also were a little confused and didn't know what to do at that time.
Easy listening is kind of a funny way to describe Roll the Bones, because that's definitely not an easy album to listen to.
It's hard to hear, but I think that's why. It's because it's so soft for them. That was too good. That was too good.
I talk shit about Roll the Bones. I just really don't like that album.
I will admit, like, at very first, I think you said it in the last video, at very first, when you first hear this album, it's like, okay, well, that's interesting, but it wears thin so fast. I mean, it gets to the point where it's like
it's
the novelty wears off. Yeah. And then that's why this album's very interesting, because they have an album like that, and then they have an album like this right after. And I mean, really, I think when you put like 2 albums of Rush's together at any point in their history, these are the 2 albums I think that are the most different. Roll the Bones and then Counterparts.
Yeah, so, I can say that.
Yeah. But then Counterparts and Test for Echo, it's basically Test for Echo is, in my opinion, Counterparts Part 2 softer. Because, I mean, the first 2 songs are pretty good, and then the rest of the album, in my opinion, it's not my cup of tea. I mean, I never really latched on to any of the other songs besides the title track and Driven. So, I mean, I'm not disappointed or upset with what I did.
I'm glad we did what we did, because, like I said, I think this is one of the only albums that I really haven't listened to by them.
Yeah. Well, and I remember you saying, too, at the end of the last video, when the very last song was on...
that was one of my favorites by the end, because it was just a really nice sounding song.
Yeah. That song, and then it's weird. I made a comment last video too about how like there's riffs and there's instances in each song that are really interesting and everything, and something along those lines. I still feel that way. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, maybe somewhere out there this is somebody's favorite Rush album, or maybe even favorite album of all time.
People on our Facebook that we've had a couple people say that this is their favorite album.
Yeah,
and I was just like, I mean, great if it's your favorite. I just don't see it.
And I can understand that. I mean, like I said, I'll go on a record and say my favorite Rush album is Hemispheres, and by no means is that I don't think that many people's favorite album from Rush. And
that one's a little bit harder to grasp, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge album. There's big giant.
Is that the one with only like 4 songs and they're all really long? Yeah.
But also, again, I mean, and I've said it a few times now, but Presto, and I know that's a very unpopular opinion amongst Rush fans, because that was the production was very dry. They were just coming off of their synthesizer 80s period. It was kind of like trying to jump back in the saddle again. But to me, what's exciting about it, and this is kind of where I'm going with this about the Counterparts thing, the reason I was so excited when I heard it is because it was like a band that was just rebirthed, and they had a fresh perspective. They had their energy back, and the only...
I'm gonna have to listen to Presto again.
Yeah. I mean, I will admit it's a lot softer than what you're used to from this band. It's just, I don't know, like it sounded like a band rejuvenated to me, and that's why I really enjoyed that album. And I can see why some people think the same of this album, is because they kind of rode that wave and then had that experiment with Roll the Bones and then reeled it back again on this.
And I think that's why I said that it may have been a lesser liked album. I like I said, by no means that I didn't mean that it was a bad album. It's just I think that it's so much different than like what I guess typical Rush would be.
Exactly.
Because it was so much more just tame and just right down the middle and I don't know, like repetitive.
Very repetitive, and that's the biggest criticism I give.
I don't want to sound negative, but it's kind of a boring album. There's not a whole lot going on. It's Neil fucking Peart, you know, and like those drum tracks were just copy and paste.
Yes, they were.
They were really easy to figure out, and I mean not figure out, but to make for his recording.
Right. I mean, and let's be real too. I mean, it might have just been the mix and everything. I'm sure he was doing more than what you're going to hear in that track we did.
Yeah, and I know live he did some other stuff too.
Yes, but I mean, really, the track we did for the drums on this cover, it's really not that much different.
The only thing that I changed was during the solo, because there really aren't that many drums in the solo part.
No, it's just like random percussion smattered around everywhere, and then he's got kind of like a hi-hat thing he's doing.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time too, like even when I was recording this song, I was sitting here going, man, it just falls flat during the solo, you know, and it's like there's no excitement there. I mean, the bass is kind of, and that was tough. I would say recording this, that was the hardest part, was just holding that 16th note rhythm on the bass the entire time.
It's Geddy Lee.
But
nobody ever said he was a bad bassist.
Right. I mean,
and if they did, they're wrong.
But I think that was the hardest thing about this song, was just holding that steady 16th note rhythm the entire song on the bass. And I said in our first video, I'm not a bass player, but you know, I just picked, and I had to use a pick because I can't play with my fingers that much. But you know, just try to hold that rhythm down the best I can, just so I can have a bass line for the guitars over it. Normally I would start with the guitar with the other songs we've done.
I imagine this time you probably start with the bass.
This time I start with the bass.
That's more of the driving factor in this song.
Yes, and I wanted to lay that bed of here's the rhythm, you know, this is the tempo. And then it was so much easier to play the guitar part over, because that's really where the big interest in this song is in that simple guitar line.
Yeah. And then the song I learned was Stick It Out. It's just, I mean, again, it was a pretty repetitive song. The only reason I picked it is because it sounded like their heaviest, you know, like guitar-wise on this album.
And I think it was. I really do.
And it really reminded me a lot of Witch Hunt, which is one of my favorite Rush songs. And but it was just so very repetitive. But yeah, I learned how to play Stick It Out for the most part, but I just, like I said, I didn't have time to record it. But it's just so you know, the same three riffs for the whole song, and it's just kind of boring, you know. Cool, I think they're cool riffs, but when you play something like over and over and over again, it kind of loses it after the first couple times.
And I think what this album as a whole suffers from too is the songs are a little bloated in time. Like if they had shortened them down a little bit.
See, and that's what I was thinking the whole time when we were working on your song. It's like 6 minutes long of the same three riffs.
Yeah, so if they had
two riffs,
half the time, I think. Yeah. You know, I mean, if it was because that song, the album version of that song is 6 minutes and 3 or 4 seconds, I want to say. They had shortened that down to about 3.5, 4 minutes.
4 minutes, yeah.
I think that would have been perfect, and I think that's what this album
is. They play
the
chorus. How many times is there a chorus in that song?
Oh,
like
God.
4 or 5 choruses.
Yeah, and because it starts with a chorus, and which is very, I'm not going to say unusual for Rush, but it's something you didn't hear for a while from Rush. And I really like the way that song begins, by the way, with that drum beat, and then it just comes in with the bass. It's like staggered drum, then bass, then guitar. And that's the cool thing about the song you were working on, Stick It Out. Everybody starts at once. So it was kind of cool to choose those two songs as 1 and 2 on this album.
Yeah, you should definitely listen to those two songs. And like I said, the last song ended up being my favorite because it's just a really nice sounding song. But
well, don't forget the instrumental either.
That one's good too. But the first two songs, they really kind of just really drive the album home. You know?
I think so. Because I think those that have heard this album an awful lot too, I'm sure they'll agree. Those are the strongest songs on this album, to be honest with you. The first two, the instrumental, and then, yeah, I would agree, probably the last song. Yeah. Alien Shores is pretty good. I'm sorry, Alien Shore is pretty good.
And there was another one that somebody said was like their favorite song ever was...
Between Sun and Moon's pretty good on there.
Double Agent.
Double Agent's pretty good.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. Sorry, I apologize. But yeah, he just commented on their Double Agent, and I'm like, yes, that was a good one.
Yeah, Double Agent's really sick. Good one. Cold Fire, I just kind of happened to see it there. Like Cold Fire and some of the other ones like it. I mean, that's exactly what him and I are talking about right now. Though, is you're just
there's too many filler songs. They all just kind of sound the same, and that's like my final opinion of this album. Is just it's very repetitive. It's very it all sounds very much the same. There's a few standout songs, but
right.
For the most part, it's middle era Rush, and it's still not bad. I'm not at all saying that it's a bad album. It's just not my favorite.
No, and that's kind of why I wanted to pick this one, because when you look at the ones that we've done before this, it was ones that we were just like, oh, okay, they're really good. Like we're really excited and all that. I kind of wanted to pick an album where it was like, okay, well, this is a band toward the end of their career. Yeah, like you said, I would say later middle period. Mm-hmm. And
I'm gonna cut you off for just 2 seconds. Do you want to stay for dinner or having tacos?
Yeah, I can stay. Okay. It was a band toward the end of the career, and they. I'm not gonna say their creativity was kind of. I think this iteration of Rush was almost a spent creative force, and I kind of wanted to highlight an example of that. There's many bands now that are coming up to that point. As we speak, like Metallica's getting to that point, Megadeth's getting to that point.
I think Megadeth still sounded really good. Metallica, I feel like should have hung it up. Yeah, so that was Rush Counterparts. Again, I'll say it again, not my favorite. Like I said before, I might listen to it again, but probably not.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those where it just, for me anyway, it just awkwardly peeks its head around the bushes every 10 years for me, and then I tuck it away again.
But so. I am glad that I got to see this side of Rush and actually do kind of a deep dive into it and listen to it for, a little bit deeper than just, there's that one song about the gay people, which that might not be what it's about. That's just how I interpret it. But yeah, so I said next week I'm going to learn 2 songs from an album. We're not doing Spine Shank again. This is going to become a thing for us, I think.
Yeah, Spine Shank will be coming.
We're going to be like, are they ever going to do Spine Shank? Well, eventually we'll do it.
You know what? The week that we do Spine Shank is the week that I'll put out my video that I've been promising about my gear.
Right. But I decided that we're going to do what is currently my most favorite album of all time, of any genre, of any band. But we're going to do Trivium in Waves. And I already know what 2 songs I'm going to do, but I might change my mind. We'll see.
Yeah. And I'm excited to work on it too. If he's doing 2, I'm going to try to do 1, but I don't know.
I think it would be nice to talk about, one of my favorite albums,
Yeah, no, I agree.
Instead of just going down this road of what the fuck is this,
I'd never heard of Trivium until I heard you listening to it. This was probably, maybe 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, I didn't start listening to them until... Yeah, probably maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I started listening to them. It was shortly after Sin the Sentence came out.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, and everybody's going to think I'm crazy, but I swear to God, I had never even heard of Trivium until what was that, 2016, 2015? You started listening to them?
Maybe a little later than that, 2017, 2018 probably. Well, when did Sin the Sentence come out? It was right after that. Because the first time I heard them, I remember back in the day when we had cable and they had the on-demand music.
Oh, yeah.
In Waves, the song was one of them. And I don't think I listened to it, but I remember seeing it on there because it was all capital.
Well, I can pretty much guarantee you the first one I heard was In Waves because I remember you played it for me and I was like, man, that's pretty cool. And then some of the other stuff you played and everything, I'm like, every now and again I would hear another album of theirs playing in your car and did Metallica come out with something new, Yeah, and In Waves is we'll talk about it more next week, but
that to me, it's just like the perfect metal album. And again, I'm gonna get hate for saying that. I have the record, so we're gonna do it that way next week. But I kind of want to listen to the deluxe edition or the extended edition, because they did a Sepultura cover on that album.
It's right.
They did Slave New World. They covered.
Okay, yeah, because I remember you played it for me a few times. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, and that song that album beginning to end is just, it just doesn't stop. It's so good. I think there's like an interlude in the middle. But yeah, we'll talk about it next week more. But yeah, I'm excited just because, like I said, it's my favorite album, and call it a cop out. I really don't care. I'm tired, so excuse me.
I mean, it's a fresh challenge for me, so I mean, I'm excited for it. It's going to be really fun to try to, because I mean, I know for a fact I'm going to have to really tighten up my down picking, and as far as the soloing goes, actually, I'm the least worried about that, because that's a little bit more closer to how I normally play solos and play guitar for leads. So I'm really not that worried about it. I mean, it's not gonna be note for note, I'm sure, but it's gonna be a little bit more akin to what that song is like.
Oh, we're gonna go eat some fucking tacos soon.
Tacos.
Homemade tacos. I love tacos. I make mine into a taco salad. Crush up the shells and put them in a bowl, and I put the stuff on it. It's easier.
You should get out straw and suck it through there.
Again, I'm tired. That's how tired people eat tacos. So thanks for watching, going down the Rush journey with us. I thought it was a lot of fun. Interesting for sure.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely not what I was expecting. Any last thoughts on that album?
Well, on the album, I think we summed it up pretty good, but I think the last words I want to say is, again, I'm very appreciative of everybody who's given us a chance, taking a look at our Facebook page, watching our videos.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, and
appreciate all the feedback.
Yes, and keep those comments rolling. We really do want to hear what you have to say, especially to the albums that we're talking about, or anything that we might say, or anything. We really want to hear from you. So,
and all of our announcements and stuff coming up is all going to be posted on there. So if you're one of the 13 people that subscribes to us on YouTube, go over to our Facebook page, and if you want to see more, and if you happen to be watching and you're one of the 400 people that follows us on Facebook, come subscribe to us on YouTube. Watch what we're talking about. So yeah, we're going to go. I guess we'll see you next week when we listen to Trivium.
All right, see you guys next week.